It's high summer, and many of us are swatting, stomping, scratching, and spraying. It's not a new dance, it's the annual battle against bugs. From ants and roaches to bedbugs, bees, and beetles, our insect friends seem to enjoy being out and about in the summer weather as much as we do. But how can we make it less of a battle and more of a joy to share space with things that buzz, fly, and crawl? Plus, one of those seasonal plagues could be not just annoying, but dangerous. Mosquitoes are a threat, primarily because they transmit some serious diseases. They are vectors for diseases from Zika and malaria to dengue fever and the West Nile virus. While these are fairly uncommon, as the climate changes, they may become more familiar in our area. LA County Vector Control is trying a novel way of battling mosquitoes. We'll tell you all about that. Fox 11 News in Depth starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marla Tejas. Welcome to Fox 11 News in Depth. Hal Eisner is off this week. Well, not long ago, a terrifying situation erupted in the Jurupa Valley of Riverside County. A man was badly stung and 2 horses died after they were attacked by a swarm of bees. Firefighters rescued the man and his son, but the horses could not be saved. That man, lucky to be alive after discovering he was actually allergic to bee stings. Of course, our interactions with bees are usually much more benign, but these are the stories that give us nightmares. They give us pause. To talk more about this, joining us now is Zach Smith, a pest control specialist known as the Pest Dude. Welcome, Pest Dude.
Thanks for having me.
So let's tell our viewers today that you are in your car because you are doing your job right now. You just finished a house call, so we appreciate you out there helping keep our homes bug-free. Let's start the conversation talking about that awful incident out of Riverside County. When we see these deadly bee attacks, these are pretty rare, right?
They are rare. It's surprising, and we don't expect to have this to happen. And, personally, I have, kids, pets. I'd hate to see this happen to me, but we're told all of our lives that generally speaking, swarms of bees are docile because they're full of honey. They're going to travel to make a new hive. They aren't looking to attack anybody. And instances like this, though, they goes against what I was raised and even taught in the industry, in the pest control industry, that swarming bees aren't generally that dangerous. This is totally contrary to that, and it's quite terrifying. What
makes this particular bee swarm dangerous? Is this a difference between the killer or Africanized bees?
Yeah, it's not easy to tell if these are Africanized bees, and the average person is not going to know. Bees would have to be taken to a lab to be, analyzed. In the field, in the real world, if we have swarming bees, based on these stories that are coming up more and more, I'd say everybody just needs to run, get away. We just don't know what they're going to do, and it's possible that these particular swarms are extremely stressed out by a long, hot summer, and they may have what you might call a bad temper, but they're ultimately trying to survive. They perceive a threat, and what's terrifying about honeybees is that their sting packed quite a punch can cause suffocation in animals, and they have no off switch. Once any bee or wasp species starts swarming, there's no off switch. They feed off of each other's pheromones, getting that signal that they're under attack and they must defend themselves through a strong offense.
All right, this video that we're looking at now, this is from the Century City Mall. We shot this back in May of this year. There was also a swarm of bees that stopped a Dodgers game. It wasn't at Dodger Stadium, but I know we have that video too. This particular hive, here we go. This was in Arizona. That actually delayed the game between the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. This was in April or May of this year. My point is, April, May seems to be the time of year that we're seeing these. Is it because of the transition from winter to spring to some warmer temperatures? How does the weather play into this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, insects in general are living by a weather-based clock. They're living by a temperature clock. Once things start to warm up, they're going through their annual transitions from, reproduction. And in the case of honeybees, they bud. Their hives naturally will grow to a level where they will produce some new queens, take the existing queen and fly off to find a new home. In a case like this, they may have just landed to get their bearings. A lot of times a hive will hang out in a tree for half a day or so to get their bearings so that workers can go out and find where they're going to set up their permanent home. Usually while they're congregating like this is when they get a lot of, notoriety. People get nervous. And I remember in the case of the baseball, at least one of these examples, pest control came out and applied a spray product to the hive or to the swarm. Well, that put a lot of people in an uproar because there's a perception that honeybees are protected or rare or endangered. And there's two sides to that. Honeybees ultimately are an imported animal. They're a lot like livestock. They've been brought around the world to work in the fields to pollinate, and they leave. They bud off and they go into the wild and become feral. Not unlike a lot of other animals that are in our, environment that were once brought from somewhere else and became naturalized. So, whether or not they should be killed or not killed is a whole nother topic. But undoubtedly, everybody has a natural fear of honeybees because whether you've been stung or you recognize you can be stung, it's painful and it can be dangerous to your health.
Yeah, and when we're seeing those, we see the beehives and the swarms, and we see these beautiful images. And yes, they can be scary, but they are an important part of our ecosystem. Getting back to something that you said earlier, if you do find yourself in a situation where you come across a hive and you are now swarmed, you said run. What do you do if you fall victim?
Wow, yeah, there's not a really easy answer to this. I have heard and read various opinions on jump into water. Well, if you happen to have water, like if you had a swimming pool or a pond, they will hover above. They are, I've done many jobs where I've gone out to eliminate like a yellow jacket hive. They stay aggravated for 20, 30 minutes. So if you're looking at a bee or a wasp that's aggravated and on high alert, guard for 20 or 30 minutes, you can't just wait it out. You got to get out of there. And that's where things get tricky because you have to, it's like a burning building. You have to get out for yourself, but you may be inclined to stay for your horses, for your kids, for your pets. All this has to be decided in a split second because you and every animal around, person or animal around that area is going to get targeted by these bees if they are in a mode to start attacking.
Wow. Okay. Well, and we want to also let our viewers know that image there, that was of the volunteer LAPD officer. That was last May, and he did suffer severe stings, but he is okay. He recovered okay. Thank goodness. All right, Zach, we're not done with you yet, so don't go away. We have plenty of other questions to bug you with when Fox 11 News In Depth continues right after this. Welcome back, everyone, to Fox 11 News In Depth. We welcome back Zach Smith, also known as the Pest Dude. He is a licensed pest control professional, horticulturist, and arborist. All right, Zach, Mr. Pest Dude, you've been doing this for about 20 years. You're in your car right now because you were just servicing a home. What is the most common issue that you deal with?
Oh, ants. By and large, especially this summer, the ants are going off. And, ants aren't too far. They're distant relatives to bees, so it's an interesting phenomenon. These hive-dwelling, swarming insects, they just come on foot instead of on wing, and we're getting calls like crazy this year. And I think it's to do with the really long, hot summer we've been having, and followed by a wet winter.
Oh gosh, so the follow-up to that is then if we've dealt with these hot temperatures, which we have. You're in San Jose, and we know it's hot there like it is here in Los Angeles and Southern California. Does that mean that we're going to get bugged and ants through the fall, too?
I believe so. With a successful, look at the seasons. We had a really good rainy winter that produced a ton of food, right? Plants and all the other things that come from a good rainy winter and healthy spring crops like weeds and such. Now you've got a really good start to your ant season. Their colonies are going to go off at, full throttle. They're going to come right on into the end of the season, and they're going to be big, hungry hives looking for opportunities to keep that hive going, which I believe is going to turn towards even more pressure on getting into our homes.
So I grew up north of San Jose in Sonoma County in the small town of Sebastopol. We had ant problems so bad I wrote a letter to Santa because I couldn't put out cookies because of ants. So I hoped that Santa would be okay. I still have that letter. Thank goodness my mom saved it. I'm telling you this because I remember the ant stakes. We would put those out all over the house. How do you treat ants?
Well, the most important thing to understand with ants, especially the invasive species we deal with, like Argentine ants, is that they form these super colonies, which can have thousands of queens and they can span neighborhoods, multiple neighborhoods. So when we're putting out the stakes or the bait or the gel or spraying a product, we may be killing them, but not enough. We have to be mindful that when we're treating for ants, we're treating for the ants, the neighbors' ants, and 3 doors down ants. And by providing enough pest control in our yard and hopefully getting our neighbors to cooperate, we can create these buffer zones that are short-lived. Because again, these multiple queen hives are just budding out and filling in the dead spots where we create, a void in our yard. The neighbor's ant colony is going to move in and take up in those old empty hives.
We've also been showing images of spiders and roaches. Do you treat those similarly? Are those just as much of a problem? Maybe not as much as ants, but.
Yes, absolutely we do. And, in California especially, we're irrigating. We're irrigating our landscape. So we're providing water. When you add water to heat, things grow. This is our yard, our beautiful yard, our flower beds, whatever. They grow quickly with the heat and the water. Well, bugs are a lot like that. So we have all these organisms that we don't want. We label them as pests. They grow right into the organisms we do want, which is, our shrubs, flowers, lawns, trees. So when we're feeding and nurturing one, we're inadvertently benefiting the other. So that's where pest control comes in and tries to interrupt some of these life cycles. But spiders are by and large beneficial. They're just scary. And that's another line that's very hard to draw. Is it's beneficial but ugly and scary, and I don't want it, but I keep doing things to encourage it by feeding a healthy landscape around my home.
We're talking about the temperatures a lot here too, and the fact that the warmth adds to this. We're seemingly in this phase of hotter summers. So do you foresee in your business, this is job security for you, right? If you want to look at it that way.
Absolutely. We're getting more calls than ever for rodents and insects and spiders, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Even in these winters where it was flooding, we do a lot of work for gophers. The gophers don't even drown. The whole golf course looks like a lake, and as soon as the water drains away, there's 25 gopher holes. So I do think that we're going to see more and more of these pests in our life, and pest control companies, I think, aren't going away anytime soon.
Final word before we let you go, Zach. If someone wants to pest-proof their home, is there a 1, 2, 3 that you could suggest?
Yeah. So screens on all your doors and windows all the time if possible, and any fissures or cracks or openings at the in the bottom 2 feet of your home from the foundation down, fill that in with caulking. The bugs that are bugging you are often walking right in through cracks and fissures or open doors and windows.
Okay, so you make it sound so simple. So the screen doors, and then make sure that there's no entry into the home. Make sure everything's sealed with the caulking.
Yes. Unfortunately, most homes are not built to be bug proof, and it's a lot of work to find all those entries. But I wish you the best of luck. And, there's a lot of tips and tricks on the web. That's part of what we do, is we provide a website that teaches people how to do it themselves.
All right. Well, you didn't bug me at all, Zach. I really appreciated you being with us today here on In Depth. Zach Smith is his name, and he is known as the Pest Dude. I'm sure you're easily accessible online. Zach, good to talk to you today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for all you do. Thanks for all the great info.
My pleasure. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next on Fox 11 News In Depth, we talk about another curse of outdoor recreation and why itchy welts aren't the worst thing you could get from a mosquito. We also talk to officials about the novel way that they're fighting back to curb the mosquito population. Welcome back, everyone, to Fox 11 News in Depth. Did you know that August 20th is World Mosquito Day? Yes, there's a day for the mosquitoes. It is a good time to talk to our LA County vector control experts about those buzzing, biting nuisances. The Vector Control District has protected the greater Los Angeles area and its residents from mosquitoes and mosquito-borne diseases for more than 70 years, protecting us from situations like the one you're watching right now, getting bit. Ugh, never fun. Joining us is Steve Vitrone, the Director of Scientific Technical Services for Greater Los Angeles County Vector Control District. Quite a title. Welcome, Steve. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you are buzzing with business. Is that fair to say, with these high mosquito counts?
Indeed, we are. Right now we're in the height of our season, so we are definitely very busy.
The worst offender that you're seeing right now, are those little ankle biters?
We're still kind of in the early part of their peak season. So these are just starting to become more abundant. Unfortunately, the biting pressure that we tend to feel because of the presence of these Aedes aegypti, particularly the ankle biters, as we've now called them, the biting pressure that they put on us are definitely creating a lot of call volume for us in terms of residents calling in to report mosquito activity and mosquito biting. So yes, I would say that these are definitely the big one for us in terms of biting pressure.
Obviously, they are a nuisance. I mean, no one wants to get a bite and then you're itching left and right. Why are they bad? I mean, obviously, this has to do with disease as well.
Indeed. Not obviously, but these mosquitoes, particularly the Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus, both of which we have here in the Los Angeles area currently, these are responsible for transmitting a number of different diseases they're responsible for transmitting a number of different diseases like dengue, chikungunya, Zika, and even yellow fever.
So, yeah, you want to stay away from contracting any of those diseases, of course. Maybe easier said than done. What do you need to do to protect your house? Obviously, standing water is always an issue.
Standing water, the ankle biters or the Aedes species that I just mentioned, they prefer more cryptic sources. They're very much a container breeder. That's not to say that they won't breed in very large sources of water, but they prefer smaller containers, flower pots. I mean, we see a lot of the rain barrels now around the average property. These, unless they're installed properly and they're screened correctly to exclude these Aedes mosquitoes, they tend to be very problematic and they produce large numbers of mosquitoes. So making sure that we're vigilant around our homes, making sure that we are not creating an environment where these mosquitoes can breed. So dumping standing water, making sure that any containers that could hold water are inverted so that they're not able to do so. Making sure that we have screens around our windows. These species will readily enter homes and they can actually live out their entire life cycle inside of the home. So making sure that we're keeping them out of the house. And really our best defense is going to be the use of insect repellents. These are kind of our best line of defense. And I know it's inconvenient. Sometimes they smell, they're greasy, but there are a number of different formulations out there that are available. As long as we're using EPA approved insect repellents, there are a number of different formulations that would fit most people's liking.
I think getting bitten is more inconvenient than actually putting on the repellent. So you said EPA approved. That's what we can look for at the store to protect ourselves. So in earlier this springtime, Vector Control, you started this method, this innovative way to combat the mosquito population. And this was by releasing a whole bunch of sterile male mosquitoes. So adding more mosquitoes to get rid of the mosquito population. Explain how that works and how has that effort been?
Yeah, this is a joint pilot project that we are currently working with in collaboration with the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District. We got out a little bit earlier with our releases. As you mentioned, we did conduct our initial releases May 16th in a very small section of the Sunland Tahunga neighborhood. And what we're doing, I know that it seems counterintuitive to release more mosquitoes to control mosquitoes, but what we're releasing are the male mosquitoes. Male mosquitoes do not need a blood meal, and they don't have the ability to bite. So we're not increasing the biting pressure. We have opted to go with an irradiation method to sterilize these males. So once they're sorted in the pupal stage, we rear them out to adults and we subject them to a dose of X-ray irradiation. And then we will dust them to make sure that we can identify them when we trap them once again, that they are ours. Once they are released out into the field, if the wild females that are out there mate with one of our males, the eggs that she'll lay as a result of that mating will not hatch. So ultimately, over time, with sustained releases, what we are hoping to see is a reduction in the overall population over time.
How long do you think that would take?
Well, currently our plan is to release from May all the way through October, and we're waiting to see if we're going to continue releases into the early part of November. With these species, they tend to reach their peak season kind of later than what we would expect. In that particular area of Sunland Tahunga, the peak season really goes all the way through October. So what we're hoping to do is see that reduction in October, and then we'll adjust accordingly if we're going to continue releasing into November. We did get an early start. This was very early in regards to kind of when they're most abundant in that particular area. And the rationale there was to really get the numbers out there, to really outnumber the wild males, to reach kind of a higher ratio of sterile males to wild males. So we figured we'd start early and give ourselves a better chance at success for this program.
All right, well, let's follow up with you in October, November to see if there really was a reduction. We hope so. And my takeaway is that it's just the females that bite, huh? Huh, Steve?
That's correct. That's correct.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course. It's just us females. Okay. Steve Petrone, thanks for the wealth of information. We appreciate all that you do to keep us bite-free.
My pleasure.
Okay, we will be back with more Fox 11 News in depth right after this. Stay with us. Finally, if you want to hear an audio version of this program, check out Hal Eisner's podcast, What the Hell, wherever you subscribe to podcasts, or you can just go to whatthehellpodcast.com. That's it for this week's Fox 11 News in depth. We thank you so much for being with us. Hal Eisner, he will be back with us next week. We'll see you then.